it is like it can be viewed as weird from an outsider's perspective. And I feel like the problem with the pro loli camp is that they always get insulted when somebody says that they're uncomfortable with loli, and then some other people say that it's a combination of age, the way they act, and the way they look. So it's probably all three, a combination of, you know. So it all started on Twitter with this VTuber called Saki VTube. She posted, I think, some picture of her fan art, and then some people flamed her in the comment, and she responded on Twitter. And then she came up with this comparison, which is, this is the last thing I'll say about this topic, but someone asked how a child and my design would differ in my style, and she made a comparison, and I think drawing her model naked didn't really help either. But this is what sparked it. So first of all, somebody asked, are you loli? She said petite adult. And then they responded, isn't that what the term loli means? Because I'm also petite, 4'9", and with only 80 pounds or so. I don't know, also the outfit is revealing and also a little misleading. I don't know, I just feel uncomfortable because this is the type of shit that attract PDFs. Based off my real body type and height, 5 feet. I'm not talking about the body, I'm talking about how revealing the clothes are. But what does how revealing the clothes are have to do with anything, really? That's the difference between lolicon and something else. You're not flat-chested and your thighs are not that small. I know your thighs quadruple in size when you sit down, because even at my weight, mine do that too, motherfucker. Okay, this person just rude. First, I think it's important to establish a difference between loli and lolicon, okay? So loli most often refers to a young or young-looking girl character in Japanese anime and manga. And lolicon is the sexualization of such character. It's in Japanese popular culture, lolicon is a genre of fictional media which focuses on a young or young-looking girl characters, particularly in a sexually suggestive or erotic manner. So people don't often differentiate the two, and they group everything together. So lolicon is the sexualization of it, and loli is just a young looking character. So the anti-loli camp equates everything that has to do with lolis to be PDF bait. And the pro-loli camp says, well, that's ridiculous. If you equate a fictional character that looks like a child that's portrayed maybe in a sexual manner, it's kind of like saying that if you play a video game that's violent, you're also gonna go, you know, shoot up a school. Basically, it's fiction, so it's not the same as something real. The thing is, from the outside, they all view this as something like that's just weird and frowned upon. It's really like an aesthetic and an art style that comes from the East. And the West, us, we view them as children, whereas like Japan view this as something cute and kawaii, etc. Like they have also even their anchors there, or like women there that are like grown adult, even in corporate setting, they do this thing that I don't remember the name, but it's to act kawaii. And if you act kawaii properly, you actually get it's actually socially accepted. Also, there's been a lot of research and different surveys done. There has been no research made that have concluded that reading you know, lolicon doshinji or lolicon hentai, or participating in or like interacting with that kind of content has any correlation with somebody being a PDF file. It's like they haven't found correlations in it. Now, does that mean that some people who do interact with it aren't already, you know, PDF files? That could be, but that doesn't mean that if you read a doshinji, you're automatically attracted to real life children. The VTubers that are from Japan are like seeped into loli culture. There's this image that you've probably seen going around, and like Kizuna Ai was actually a very famous, they say lolicon. Does she sexualize lolis? Yes, she does. She has. There's like this screenshot of her that goes around where there's this very real loli from Azur Lane that she rolled, and she's like, oh, pero pero, which means like lick lick. And then in another instance, she's kind of like panning up a Loli's skirt, and she's like, oh, you know, nice view. She makes jokes around it. Popularized using Live 2D and streaming for VTubing. Okay, I didn't know she was a lolicon. Popularized independent VTubing. First VTuber ever, also a lolicon. Big SEN VTuber lolicon. So Gargora often retweets some of her fan art that are like kind of sexual and sexualized. I don't know if Kobo's a lolicon. Does she... I mean, yeah, she could be a lolly. She has really long limbs though. She's kind of on borderline lolly. We're gonna go into what we consider lolly later into the stream. I don't know if she's a lolicon though. I haven't seen her sexualizing them. Marine, yeah, she said they were cute before. She has made jokes about lolicons, so yeah, I mean, Marine sexualizes everything, so it wouldn't surprise me. Pecora lolicon. Is Pecora a lolicon? I guess as we'll see later on, some people consider Pecora a lolicon. I'd say that within the fan base, or at least within Hololive GP, they don't consider Pecora a lolly, so that one surprised me. Yeah, Matsuri should have been there. So there was also this screenshot that Parrot Version once retweeted, and that's just like a bunch of VTubers talking about lollies. I mean, Pikami was like a proud lolly and lolicon. She said it, that she's into the yabai stuff. She reads those Zushinji. There's nothing really inherently wrong with it, but what the pro lolly camp like never wants to concede is how it is. Like, it can be viewed as weird from an outsider's perspective. And I feel like the problem with the pro lolly camp is that they always get insulted when somebody says that they're uncomfortable with lolly. And I think it's fine to say you're uncomfortable with this because it's subjective taste. You don't have to convince everybody of your kinks, or, you know, it's just, no, guys. You should think like me. It doesn't have to be like that. You could just be a lolly enjoyer and not care that other people aren't, okay? Like, I personally don't have a problem with lolly, and that's fine. But what is valid though is when the anti-lolly camp calls them, you know, PDF bait. That is crossing a line, but then there's infighting that goes in just because some people dislike lollies, and you know, that's fine. It's like, think of another kink or fetish. If you would publicly advertise it, other people would tell you it's weird. So you'd be like, okay, I'm just gonna do it behind closed doors. But for, you know, lollies and lolicons, they don't want to do it behind closed doors. They want to keep advertising it. Well, you're gonna get criticized for that too. If you're putting your opinion out there, then you're making yourself open for criticism. So I think that both sides are a bit unreasonable, and of course there's some people that are way more unreasonable than others. Japanese mindset in lolly is simple. Every fictional character is permitted, no law against them, that's all. There's some conflicting newspaper, or like, being openly an otaku in Japan is not necessarily something that's very accepted in the first place. So when Western people say like, oh, you could be an openly a lolicon in Japan, I don't know if that's totally true. Like, I don't know if that's totally true, guys. Like, Japan has this strong mentality and culture that you should swim with. They don't have this individualistic culture like we have here. And they believe that everybody should kind of conform. So if you show up to your work with like an anime t-shirt and some like My Hero Academia like sweatpants, or some like VTuber merch on, their first assumption is that you're somebody that's lazy, weird, and you're probably not gonna work well. And it sucks that it's prejudice like this, but it is. And I'd like to think that maybe the new generation is gonna change that, because Japan used to be like super open-minded, and then in the recent years it kind of went back to being to dressing very dressy, very plain. Keep things in private and not be out with it. Yes, kind of, exactly. It's like, you can a lot of them are into manga and anime, of course, because like it's super popular there, but they don't like showcase it like we would do here. So under the T podcast tweeted, the timeline today is just dozens of VTubers saying, so just cause my model looks like this, you think I'm a loli? A lot of you only started VTubing for the money, clout, and it shows. There's nothing wrong with having a loli model. Several of the biggest VTubers do. Calm down. I guess there's like a segment of Twitter that was mad at the girl with the green-haired model because she refused to acknowledge that it was a loli. And basically they're saying that calling it petite is also wrong because I don't know, you don't want to admit that you're a loli, I guess. And basically you're denying that it's a loli, like it's a bad thing, and so they're kind of offended by it, I suppose. So these tweets went pretty viral. Why do people even feel the need to justify their models to other people? It takes a lot of strength not to have to justify your actions to random strangers. I think most people want to be loved and they want to be accepted by other people. It's always very difficult to come to terms with the fact that some people may just not have a good opinion of you and live with it. And as a content creator, I kind of realize that that's something I also gotta come to terms with. But it still takes a lot of strength. So Under the Tea podcast made another tweet replying to this person. There's a big difference between being a petite woman and being a child. Another Under the TL, neither Gura or Neanners are children in their models. I personally believe that so long as the woman is over the age of 18, loli is okay. I have known many petite women who could be described as loli despite being fully grown and of legal age. Okay, well, it's... you mean like the person piloting the loli? So there's a conundrum though. So actually Geminix brought that question to me earlier and I don't have a response for it. Like, Marine says in her lore that she's 17, okay? We know, between all of us, that she's not 17. Obviously, she's older. But her lore is 17, so technically, canonically, she's 17. So does that make her a loli? What if the character is underage but looks adult to you? And what if the character looks overage, is piloted by an overage person, but is canonically underage? This is starting to become so messy. Lolis are not required to be children. Gura is both a self-admitted loli and lolicon. She literally just got finished with a rendition of Loli God Requiem, which is originally made by yet another adult woman who is a loli-tuber. Okay, so there's actually more to this story. The girl who made Loli God Requiem was actually a critique. Basically, it's a meme song and the lyrics were meant to be much worse. And the person who sung that song, she says that if it gets popular in certain country, it means that there's a lot of people with problems in that country. She kind of did that song half to commentate on society and like half as a critique and half as a parody. So it's not necessarily that she was super pro lolicon. This was my reply to Under the Tea because they put like Neanners with the other lolis. I thought I was curious because I asked even a couple of days ago in several discords and in my own discord whether people considered Neanners a loli or not, and most people said no. Most people don't consider Neanners to be a loli, which plays into the whole hypocrite stuff because people call her a hypocrite nowadays because they claim that she is still using a loli model and using a loli voice and making the same sexual jokes. Therefore, she's sexualizing loli. Therefore, she's a lolicon. So they think she's a hypocrite. But, I mean, that's her natural voice. And I don't actually consider her model to be a loli. But it's just very interesting. And you're okay to disagree with that. It's just very interesting to see the wide variety of opinion on that. It's insane that so many people, everybody answers a different thing. And when I asked that question out of curiosity, because you put Neanners out there, do you think Mokoko and Pekora are lolis too? Everybody answered something different. Some people said Pekora's a loli, Mokoko's not. Some people said Mokoko's a loli, Pekora's not. So They answered Pecora definitely is, but Mokoko is borderline. Pecora's height, small build, her model is much smaller than her mother's, and even her eyes make her a loli in my eyes. Of course, she had different models over time, like any VTuber. And this person, I think I agree with this person the most. Lapis, Mitsuri, Rushia, and Shion are right there, like as loli. Hell, I would have even settled for you saying Luna. So he doesn't agree that Mokoko, Pecora, or Neanders are all lolis. Fictional children are different from the real, whether of age or not. Worries that there are rotten people who doesn't see the difference and can be stimulated by it, and groups who want excuses to censor and control. Yes, there's certainly some bad apples that seek out that kind of content as well. Like I mentioned earlier that people enjoy Pomp ironically and unironically, and it's the people that enjoy it like for real for the wrong reasons that we kind of need to watch out for. And just the other day, I follow a lot of artists, and so I followed this one loli artist, and he tweets in Japanese, but I translated the tweet, and I found that in one of his tweets he decided to take a hiatus. And the reason so was because he found out that somebody that was unironically, like genuinely attracted to children had started following him. And he was completely grossed out by that fact. And he was like, I'm not gonna post I'm taking a 2-week break, because he was like kind of freaked out. And he was like, please don't follow me for those reasons. I blocked the individual, but I just want to draw cute girls. It's not his fault. It's not his fault. I'm not putting the blame on the artist. I'm just saying him and other people that make that kind of content, some Neanders had similar thoughts on the matter. She's been through similar things, but on a much bigger scale than that artist. So that's why sometimes when you come across a lot of these people, then you become like kind of grossed out by it. But that doesn't mean that everybody who watches Gargora as a PDF file, that doesn't mean that everybody that even reads loli hentai is a PDF file either. You know, both of them could exist, both of them can be true. So to prove that point, I kind of did an exercise and I put both of the models next to each other to see like what differentiates them. So off the bat, what I noted was that Mokoko's legs are longer, but that could also be because her shoes are much chunkier and wider, giving her the impression that she's a lot taller. But aside from that, her head is a little smaller. As from the shoulders to, like, how do you call that, pelvis or crotch area, they look pretty much the same in shape. And the legs, there's not a big difference, and I calculate in the next slide. So here I superpose them, and the proportions look very similar when I superpose them. So I found it hard to see, so then I did another thing where I calculated their heads in how many of their heads would fit in their body. So Pecora has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 heads that fit in her body. And then Mokoko has 6.5, or not even, like 6 and a third. So it's like, no, is that 1/3 the only thing that stands between the fact that she's not a loli and she is? No, I don't think so. It's gotta be more than that. So then I did the same exercise with Gargora to compare them. And then, yeah, you can't really, I agree with that. Once I did the superposition, I was like, this is so tough because they kind of have two different styles, but they still look extremely similar. For me, this is the same body type. And then this is Gora, and Gora actually has only 5 heads, even a little bit less than 5. I'm trying to think, what are loli characteristics? I'd say Patan, a chubby face, a chubby stomach. I think a chubby stomach makes it so in my head they're immediately a loli. Soft limbs, they're short, or they're mechanically young, or they act very young. But it can't be just one of these things. I think it's gotta be multiple of these things. So, is this a loli, chat? We're gonna do a PSA. I'm gonna show you a bunch of photos and you tell me if it's a loli or not. Okay? So, Koa from Idol ES, she definitely has like a chubby stomach, and she has like the round face. She's Betan, and she's got like the soft limbs, like with a little bit of baby fat. Like she's 100% a loli. All right, most people seem to say yes. Okay, so what about Neanners now? That one is highly debatable and highly subjective. That one is more borderline, right? Because she kind of has like a more angular face. She's sort of flat, but there's some booba, and she's pretty tall. She's taller than Project Melody. No, yes, no, 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 teen, petite. The thing is, like, let's say I'm arguing that to somebody that's outside of the VTuber community. Let's be real, they would think this is a lolly, right? They don't see the difference between like her and her. They would think it's the same. For this model, well, this is the model that most of the people like blame her for. Is the one that looks the most like a lolly, and just the one that looks the most young, so I'm using that one. That's the one that looks the most young. The other one that she got after that are a lot more mature looking. But I'm particularly using that one because it's the most like divisive and it's the most debatable model. People have so many different descriptions of lollies, but it's funny that some people consider her a lolly but not Mokoko, for example. It's her arms that make her look like a lolly. She just has skinny arms. Okay, what about this VTuber, chat? This VTuber actually made a video that was reacted by Moist Critical and some other dudes. She's a VTuber. She kind of did a video talking about lolly and lolly culture. She did a good video. I recommend watching it, where she basically says that it's a culture from East Asia that we're kind of appropriating, and now we're trying to change it. And you guys came to us, not the other way around. I have a petite, 145 centimeter older who defined my objective opinion of attractive growing up. To me, there is a difference between petite and lolly beyond body type. I agree, there is a difference between lolly and petite beyond body type. No, it's definitely a series of factors. And this is what I'm trying to establish. Some people even told me if they are under 18, canonically, or if they have a super high age, like a 5,000-year-old vampire, then they're probably a lolly. That and along other factors. And then some other people say that it's a combination of age, the way they act, and the way they look. So it's probably all three, a combination of, you know, like Anya from Spy X Family is definitely a lolly because of her age, the way she acts, and the way she looks, right? But that's like an easy one. We need tougher examples. And this is a very popular image that's on the internet. It's called Loli Anatomy 101, but they're also using like a clearly very young lolly, so it's like pretty obvious that she is a lolly. So they always like, they have the boob cushion, like the really round faces, and like protect handle is what they're calling it here, but it's just like they have like a wider stomach area and small feet, I suppose. If Anya is a lolly, does that mean that all children are lollies? But then there's some children character that also look older than lollies. So I really think it's a combination of, like we said earlier, age, look, and behavior, right? So I think we figured it out, chat. Good job, everybody. Pats on the backs. I really think it's gotta be a combination of these three big categories, and then you need to fulfill probably like 2 out of 3 or maybe 3 out of 3 of those paragrams. So is Kiss Shot as a Rolla Orion Heart under Blade a lolly? Honestly, trying to define it is an exercise in futility, and it's up to regulation to define. If they want to stop it, they gotta define it plain. I agree that they gotta define it. Somebody's gotta define it, and it needs to be like a non-vague bar. Think static definitions don't always work. Well, then you end up with like what VGen is doing, which they have like really vague terms to define what is Shotokan and what is Lolicon, and then you get people fighting over it. So I think if you're gonna ban lollies, then in your platform, then you better define it, or you should just ban all not safe for work art and call it a day. People say lollies, but they never talk about shotas. I mean, people got angry at Sayu and called her a diddler because she said she liked shotas. and Shotokan. As someone else said, since the age of a drawing is arbitrary, it cannot be taken into account as to whether it is a loli. But what about, like, you know, in those vampire stories? I think there's one in Twilight too. Now I'm gonna start talking about Twilight. There's like this really young vampire, but he's like 2,000 years old. So is he a loli? Emo perception, age, look, and behavior plus context, how the character is viewed within, plus intent, the intent of the artist. That would make sense. Wait, oh my god, I forgot about that! The true messed up thing in Twilight is the werewolf falling in love with the baby. Yeah, the werewolf imprints on the baby. Yo, I forgot about that. FBI open up. I completely forgot about that, man. When it comes to the morality, age is the most important. Thus, the disconnect between the critics and the enjoyers. Yeah, but earlier we said that the age, it could be really young or really old, and like a 9,000-year-old shark, like Gora is, would still qualify as a loli. Listed age holds the heaviest weight in actual legal accountability. I think we can all agree that there shouldn't be any legal accountability when it comes to drawings, at least in our community, because we're like VTubers and we're into anime. As a counterpoint to body type, I would argue that the character anchored from a zero lane could be a loli because her mind is infantile. Yeah, but then I feel like, okay, wait, I feel like body type holds way more weight than the other parameters. Because loli is, it's a look. It's an appearance first and foremost. All right. That was a good discussion though. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the debates, and I enjoy people no, I like that you guys refuted a lot of points and it brought in a couple of points. Like my mind going into the stream wasn't totally formed, and it was kind of like an exercise getting there with you guys.